Good day. We have flashed the firmware of our wireless access router and reset to factory defaults using the reset button on the hardware. And in order for the next steps to be taken for security enhancements, you'll need to connect to that router using your wireless before you access the administrative console. The web interface, we're going to use 192.168.1.1 to connect to our router, and now that it's been reset, we're going to use the simple options to get in and set things up manually. Might help to use Control minus to view all of this. Sometimes, depending on the viewing options in your screen, you may have zoomed in or out. But basically, it says continue with an open and unsecured network. So you can use the wizard using Linksys Connect, or you can go direct to your management options. We're going to avoid use of the wizard because we want to specify things manually. We'll go ahead and click here and accept the terms and conditions. It says, I understand it's currently open and not secure. We're going to continue. So what they're telling you is that you haven't secured options for the wireless yet because it's in default mode. We're going to say OK. The username is not specified, but when you look up the options for the user password on the manufacturer website, it's lowercase admin. The very first thing we want to do is change our wireless access point or wireless router password. So we're going to go to the administrative options. Your screens may be different depending on the brand and the model, but basically there's multiple layers of options. So the first step is to realize you have a main option for setup and then some wireless settings, security settings, and so on. And as you click each, it's going to pop up with extra screens. It's saying using the advanced utility to change it's trying to warn you to use the wizard again. But you'll notice the lower options here have changed when I click on setup. If I go back to administration, the submenu options change again. Here we can verify that our latest version of the firmware is there, but under management we want to go ahead and change the password. We also want to check this box as a part of that process. When we logged in admin, that's a well-publicized password. We want to change it to a password that isn't easy to guess or look up, and we want to make sure that we check this box so that the wireless connection across our web browser to this management console is encrypted and protected. So as we're typing in the login password to change settings on our wireless, people can't just sniff that out. We're going to put in a random and not too easy to guess. We're also going to disable anything for voice over IP. We're going to disable universal plug and play because we don't have a lot of accessories that we use with game consoles. That's also a known while we're in the screen. We'll go ahead and save changes. And at this point, we're going to continue, and it'll say, hey, the passwords don't match. We're going to put in our new password. And we want to make sure that this is HTTPS. So that it's encrypted. And that's really important. So actually, I'm going to take this out here and want to execute this. The browser is going to squawk. It's going to say that, hey, this isn't secure. That's because the certificate performing the encryption for the connection to the management screens is not something that's publicized in certificate authorities. It's not a VeriSign certificate. It's a private internal certificate. We're going to click Advanced, and we're going to say Proceed to 192, and it is actually secure. It's just not public security. It's private security. I go into quite a bit of detail on that in our cyber course on encryption and in systems security. So now we're going to log in. And you see here we have our screen, and it looks a little different, but that's because we're accessing it through HTTPS. And we saved settings. We're going to go back to setup. It's not as pretty, but basically the same set of options there. And to begin our custom configuration for security enhancements, we're going to work our way across and make changes at each level as we go. The first order of business is to change the name of the router on the network so that it's not obvious. It's just helpful if somebody's browsing your network while they're connected to your wireless. It's a good idea to change the name, because oftentimes there's brand or model information in that router name, and you want to provide less information. You always want to think about hackers. So this router name, we're going to give it a non-intuitive name based on something like the planets, name of the planets, or something like that. When wireless connections are made, the DHCP server that's built into this wireless router can support a maximum number of 50 connections. That's the default. That's a bad idea for security. What we want to do is reduce that number. If you had 3 or 4 people in the house and they each had 3 or 4 devices, you would want to have a certain number of connections. For guests, you'd probably say, well, what about guests when I have friends over or family over? You're going to give them a guest connection, and that's going to be on a different network. You don't want your guests to be on your same home network where they can access the same systems that others in your family use to do online banking and stuff like this. Okay. By the way, just to be consistent, I'm going to come up here and also put the host name, and I'm going to adjust the time, because time actually, you can get into some interesting challenges when the time isn't accurate. And we're going to go ahead and save settings. When we do this, we should be able to continue on. Yes, so for VLAN setup, we're going to skip that. Although you can set up separate networks on this wireless access router. That's a nice to have feature. And I'm going to go to the IPv6 setup, and you're going to notice that IPv6 is automatically enabled. We're going to disable IPv6 unless your internet service provider gives you the option of working with the new version of IP network addressing, version 6. You should disable it. There's all sorts of reasons why this is also a bad idea to leave turned on. The MAC address clone is an interesting feature if you want to use your wireless router instead of the one that's provided by your internet service provider. You can note the MAC address or MAC identity of the internet service provider's hardware and then substitute it here and then connect directly to the network that way. We're not going to do that today. I just thought I'd mention. We did disable this. I'm going to save settings. And then I'm going to go back to this other setting. Basic setup. Dynamic DNS we're not going to worry about right now. Wireless security. So moving right along. We're going to enhance wireless security. By default, WPS, wireless protected security or Wi-Fi protected setup, WPS, is enabled. That's to assist you with connection of smart devices in your home, Internet of Things that you could connect to the wireless. And oftentimes these devices have remotes, infrared remotes with limited keypads where it's mostly numbers. And by using this option, there's a button you can press on your Wi-Fi router that helps you with connection using a PIN code. We're going to disable that because we want access to, and we want to set up manually. So we're going to make that change. And we're going to save changes. As soon as we took WPS out of the mix, you'll notice that now you have granular options to set channels and network names or SSIDs. That name is broadcast. Once again, it's a good idea not to have a name that's associated with, I mean, it's okay to have one that's associated with your family if it's a family Wi-Fi access you're doing. So you could have something like Smith underscore Wi-Fi underscore 5G, right? 5 gigahertz. One good practice, a best practice, if you're serious about security, is to disable the SSID broadcast and then set a network name that you and your family members know. And then when you connect to wireless services, you basically use the other option and then type in the name that's hidden. Otherwise, we're going to, now, when you do that, everybody in your family has to know what to do for the name when other, and then you have to move all your devices to connect to the other after you make that change. We're not going to do that, but we are going to change the default name so that it's something a little more intuitive. We're going to pretend we're the Smith family and that this is Wi-Fi and it's to 4 gigahertz, right? That's actually 2.4 gigahertz. We're going to go ahead and save setting changes. And that means we're going to have to reconnect because right now we're connected to Linksys something or other. So get ready. You're going to sit here for a while and it's going to look like you've lost your connection, and that's because, well, you're not on the right network anymore. You want to reconnect to the Smith Wi-Fi network. Based on the Wi-Fi adapter in your laptop, you may have 5 gigahertz in your laptop. In this case, my Lenovo does not, which is why I don't see the 5 gig. I'm going to go ahead and connect. And I do not have a passcode set up for that wireless connection, so I'm just clicking. And that's a problem. That's not very secure when you think about it. We want to set up wireless security now by using a passphrase to connect to one of these two networks. On this option, we're going to type in something, and you can use the same passphrase for both 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz wireless connections. But in just a minute, we'll see the option to enter a passphrase. The longer and more complex the passphrase in general, the better the wireless keys and security. We're also going to specify a security mode called WPA2. It's going to use AES encryption, so it's going to be much stronger. And hopefully the screen will populate the rest of the way shortly. So the screen has finally populated. Wireless security options right now are disabled. What we want to do is institute WPA2 personal. And if we had a business environment, we could go with WPA2 enterprise and then use a radius server or certificates, smart cards and such, but we're going to use WPA2 personal. And it's going to ask for a passphrase. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other type of wireless. And I'm going to use the same passphrase regardless of which one I'm going with. So I'll just type in some quick nonsense like connect. I'll use leet speak. Connect now with an exclamation point, and I'll use the 0 and the 3 for lowercase o and lowercase e. I'll do the same for the passphrase down here. As soon as I make this setting change, I'm going to have to reconnect down here and enter that passphrase to get my screen back. I click continue. It's going to sit there, and that's because now there's a passphrase. I just saved that setting. See it. If I try to reload, it's not going to work. I need to reconnect to the Smith Wireless, and then connect and enter my network value. I'm going to display this just to see. I'll say next. This is really important. Whenever you see the option, do you want to allow your PC to be discoverable by other PCs and devices on this network? We recommend that you only we recommend allowing this on your home and work networks, but not on public ones. That's baloney. Always answer no. Always answer no. Always answer no. Okay, we have a few more changes left after we're connected and we have a secure connection. We'll be able to jump back to our main screen. Let's look at the security options. You'll notice it says IPv6. In case IPv6 suddenly becomes enabled, we want to leave that in place. The IPv4 option is enabled also. We can filter for specific things on the web if that becomes a problem, or to prevent network redirection with NAT. We're going to leave these settings where they are. For storage access policy and application gaming, we can set quality of service. We don't really need to do any of that. We just wanted to check for security to make sure that the firewall was on. We're going to go ahead and save changes, and this concludes what we need to do to enhance security for our home wireless access point or wireless router. Thank you for joining us. That's all for now. Be sure to take screenshots of each of the options that you changed, showing the settings applied for each of the criteria specified. Thank you and good day.